Welcome to the Microsoft Partner Network podcast. Every week, we bring in industry leaders and Microsoft partners to talk about the big ideas shaping business and technology today. Today, we're lucky to have Alyssa Fitzpatrick here with us in the studio. Alyssa is the GM of the Microsoft Global Sales Channel. She has great insight into the unique demands of the SMB market and how partners can sell more effectively there. Welcome to the studio today, Alyssa.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
You've had a pretty awesome career. You're actually fairly new to Microsoft, but worked at CA Technologies, Senior Vice President of the Global Partner Organization, lived in London, bounced around all over. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you became GM at Microsoft.
As a matter of fact, I actually started my career here in Seattle. I went to University of Washington and I got my degree in computer science, which was actually with a focus on artificial intelligence. And as soon as I got out of school, I ended up starting a career in partnering by accident. I started coding for Andersen Consulting, now Accenture. And as a result of that, I built a relationship between Andersen Consulting and Siebel Systems at the time. So that was my entree into partnering. And that was 25 years ago. And I have then followed a career with companies like Oracle, Informatica, Intel, and Computer Associates, as you mentioned, all in the partnering world. And so I've watched an evolution over the last 25 years of what it means to partner in this industry, but also all of the market trends that are driving the route to market and how our products and technology from this industry are being consumed by the general public and by enterprises and small and mid-sized business.
I had no idea that you did coding and AI and all that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was actually by accident. I came to school to get a finance degree and ended up coding and finding that it was something that worked very well with the way that my mind works.
Yeah.
But about 10 years into my career, that's when I started moving into more of the sales side of it. I was technical for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And so what that has given me, though, throughout my career is the ability to link all of the things that we're talking about from how do we go to market from a sales perspective and linking that back to a foundation of technology into what is the art of the possible.
That's awesome. One of the things we were talking about, just the SMB market, and it's obviously huge and growing. 98%, 99% of companies are SMB. And what you were talking about is that that's where the innovation is coming. Can you talk a little bit more about what you're seeing and where do you think this is all going?
Absolutely. As I was mentioning, market trends and what the evolution of this industry has been very, very interesting and critical to the success of my career. And one of the things that I've really taken note of over the last 6 to 10 years is the advent of the small and mid-sized business and the availability for technology to apply to how they run their business. And so what's changed really in the last 5 to 7 years is the availability of the technology that we have built in the technology industry to apply not just to enterprises, but to SMBs. So today, the SMB can access the exact same kinds of technologies that run enterprises. And that was not the case 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where you'd roll out big SAP implementations over 3 years. That's changed. Today, we want to have technology that can be accessed and available instantaneously. And that demand is not only from an enterprise perspective, but also from an SMB. And so as SMBs are starting to use technology to run their businesses, it's driving the innovation that's happening for the software designers, because we have to build technology that can meet their needs instantly, can also be customized so that it fits their purpose for their business, and also provide instantaneous upgrades and seamless integration into the other parts of their business that they're trying to automate. And so for an SMB, the landscape has completely changed for them for the availability of technology to give them a competitive advantage. Whereas in the past, that's only been reserved for enterprises with a lot of money. So as we build our go-to-market strategy for Microsoft and our partner ecosystem today, we're trying to unveil what the SMBs are looking for and how to better meet their needs in the marketplace. And that comes not just from the products that we develop, but how we interact with our SMBs and how our partners architect their business for SMBs. And what SMBs are driving us to do from a Microsoft perspective and our peer group is to innovate faster. They have very, very high demands on what they need to run their business. And they're also very finicky. If they don't like the functionality today, they can switch and use another app tomorrow. And they have grown up with that mindset that this is, if it doesn't fit their needs, they can go find something or create something that does. And that is the mindset of the millennial that's really changing the path of the SMB.
That's so many questions. So one is, what are some of, it's great that you can be innovative as an SMB, better technology. What are some of the challenges, unique challenges for these kinds of companies?
I think the hardest thing for an SMB is to truly understand what is going to fit for their business, because the trial and error is very costly, especially for a small or a mid-sized business. They don't have the time or the money to be trying one thing after the other to try to find a fit. So what they're looking for are partners or advisors or guidance that will help them apply the right technology at the right time to the right problem. And the SMBs cannot understand the entire landscape of what's available. So that's exactly why a partner ecosystem is so critical to the success of that entire segment of customers. The SMB partner can understand all of the unique offerings and the differentiators between those offerings in order to apply that to the business needs of that particular customer. And for those partners, to have them grow their business, they've got to be able to connect those dots between the business needs and the technology that's available. So SMBs really do rely on partners to help guide them so that they can have quick innovation and quick time to market, so that they're not bogged down in technology while they're trying to innovate their business itself.
Yeah. That's what's kind of great about our kind of ecosystem, right? Where we have such a vast, complex, but awesome group of partners that hopefully you can help find another partner in an area that you don't have expertise in, right? Mm-hmm. You're kind of saying it's important to specialize and then tap in to another partner for the things that you're not good at, in particular for this audience. Is that part of what you're talking about?
Absolutely. In today's day and age, the art of specialization is what is going to allow not only SMBs, but the partner of SMB to survive and thrive. We've got to have partners understand what they want to be famous for. Yeah. They've got to have a unique value proposition, because otherwise, how would an SMB find them? How would they decide, this is the partner I'm going to go with to help optimize my business? And in order to specialize, a lot of times that means importing domain expertise into your company, or relying on key advisors or advisory services to help you with that business model. So let's say, for example, you are an SMB partner that wants to specialize in operationalizing dentist office. The best thing you could do is figure out how to bring in potentially a dental receptionist into your sales cycle to understand how to operationalize, how to run a dentist office. And then you can build the solutions and the offerings. And the next thing you know, you now have a population that you can go after and start to speak their language and meet their needs in the market and understand exactly how to help their business. And so you're not going into a sales cycle trying to learn how to apply technology to their problem. You're servicing up to them, here's your problem and here's the solution. So you can then streamline that sales cycle, keeping in mind that 80% of a sales decision is made digitally before they even contact a partner. And so not only do you need to have bulletproof solutions that meet the needs of a unique customer, but you've also got to be able to provide that visibility on your digital front door.
Right. The importance of marketing, social selling.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to something you talked about with millennials. And I think there is quite a big gap in terms of what the older audience that is used, or from the past legacy days that you talked about, not born in the cloud, and to the newer audience of startups. They put, an app together in a night. I mean, hackathons. It really is something we've never experienced. What are your feelings about millennials? How are you handling it? What are your recommendations?
It's definitely been a shift. In other words, we have got to understand the minds and the thinking of the millennials that are flooding our market. SMBs today, almost 80% of the new SMBs coming to market have millennials in their leadership. And so that means they're thinking differently. And for those of us that have been in the industry for 25 years, we absolutely cannot train our minds to think that way. We didn't grow up the same way. We didn't grow up with devices in our hands, as soon as we were born. And so, for example, I had my first mobile cell phone when I was 24 years old. And it was huge. And there weren't a lot of us that had them. And so when you think back to that mindset change, when kids I have 3 children, and they are so upset with me because they're 9 and 10 years old and they don't have phones. And smart devices. And so those kinds of things, that ubiquitous technology is absolutely invasive in how we run our businesses today. So we actually need to import the thinking as well, much like I was referencing on SMBs and bringing in that specialty. We've got to do the same thing in our roles, because we've got to understand how the millennials are thinking and how to build our thought process, our life cycle, and our entire journey with that thinking in mind. And so when I look at an SMB and the SMB partner of today, the thinking is very different. And if you are a partner trying to service the SMB market, but you don't have the millennial thinking, you're not going to connect the dots between what the customer wants and what you're serving up. And so again, that is the kind of mentality and thought leadership that you've got to step up to.
What do you think are some of the bigger disconnects when you talk about maybe a partner that's been in our ecosystem for 10 years versus a new company that's coming out, like you said, that has a millennial leader? Where's the big difference in thinking, and how do you try to bridge that gap?
So we have built the entire technology partnering model over the last several decades around having partners resell technology. And that's been a model that has serviced all of us in the industry very well. It gave us a multiplier effect, a reach into customers that the core software vendor couldn't do themselves. And so a reseller community is what has been built in the channel. And the revenues that our partners were taking home were around margin, and a lot of margin-driven selling. And so that model is changing, because as we're moving to the cloud, the margins are very slim. Yeah. And the margins are actually not the kind of sticky revenue that you want from your customers, because as we move into a cloud model, they're subscription-based. And so they can turn the subscription on and off whenever they want, which means you need to service your customers in a much more high-touch way. And it's not about the transaction and the margin that's going to keep you afloat. It's actually about the service that you provide to the customer in the end. And so again, that's changing your business model from running your business on reselling technology and operating on margin to continuing to resell technology if that is applicable to you, but pivoting the model to really service your customers. So it's around providing consulting services or solutions or standing up managed services so that you actually have a much tighter relationship with your customer, and you're addressing their needs on a monthly basis rather than every 2 or 3 years when it was time for a renewal.
Yeah. Are you finding, because you have a lot of experience around the globe, you've worked all over, are you finding that same common theme with millennials and the technology, what you just alluded to with resellers and that kind of model across the globe?
Absolutely. I think that the mentality of the millennials is consistent wherever you go around the globe. The maturity of the market moving to a cloud adoption technology stance is different. So as we look at different countries, the U.S. is obviously very advanced and very nimble in taking on new technology trends. And there are other countries and regions that are along the same lines. But there is a large spectrum between a mature cloud adopter and just starting in the cloud. And so when you look around the globe, understanding the geopolitical or even the economic differences or climate differences, there's a lot of things that fold into the maturity of cloud adoption in different countries. And so understanding that and understanding what's holding back cloud adoption or what's stimulating cloud adoption can really help your business. And so not just keeping your blinders on and looking at your customer base or how you're going to build your business, you've got to look more broadly at how is your country operating and what is going on in the different friendly countries in adopting into the cloud. And then how do you also mirror what mature and performant countries are doing around cloud adoption? How do you try to take lessons learned and apply those to your unique situation? So it is not everyone is equal as far as the cloud adoption, but everyone is moving to the cloud in their own time. And so making sure that we understand what are holding us back, what are the elements that are holding us back, and what are the elements that are pushing us forward can help you optimize your business model as well.
Yeah, I have so many thoughts. I think a lot about the cybersecurity, and obviously with stuff that's going on across the globe. So there's clearly we're all in this together.
Absolutely,
we're all in this together. You talked about that you did when you were coding. You did AI. That was your focus. When you think about SMB, I was just talking to some great partners doing IoT and changing the way cities and whatnot. You kind of have that background. And when you think about the future and where the opportunity lies, of course, in specialization, but where do you see the SMB partners, our SMB partners of the future moving?
So I'm glad you brought that up because I think it is such an exciting space. I've been waiting for years for AI to be a reality. Right. I watched it go to Hollywood and, I thought that was what I studied. And we can't seem to make it a reality in tech. We romanticize what it could be.
Yeah.
It's finally come back because it has taken us this long to really understand what data can provide us.
Yeah.
So as we've accumulated data over, the last several decades, the amount of data that we store today in 1 hour dwarfs what we used to do in 1 year or 2 years. And so the amount of data that is being stored and analyzed is creating that big data phenomenon. And so now we have the ability to apply machine learning and artificial intelligence to that large quantity of data and to really have true decision support and true analytics that can provide us guidance as to where we want to go. And so we haven't had that because we haven't had the quantities of data that can give us actionable analysis. So now that we've got that, that is one of the areas that we as Microsoft are investing heavily in around propensity and understanding what our customers are most likely to do next. And so we can take our AI and apply that to what we're seeing from a behavioral pattern in the industry. And we can provide that back to our partners and say, here's your list of the most highest propensity customers for technology adoption. And we can help them go after the low-hanging fruit and move more quickly and more nimbly so that the sales cycles are actually much more valuable because we know we're going after customers that want to be moving to the cloud or want to be acquiring technology to run their business. And so I love seeing AI come into the fold. And I love what we're doing here at Microsoft to expose that to our customers and our partners so that we can all work much more cohesively together.
Yeah. So if you had to give some advice to SMB partners, how can they be more effective, something in their sales cycle, more tangible? What do you think they can do to better reach their market? Start doing today.
Well, my first tip to any SMB partner out there that is not selling in the cloud is to sell in the cloud.
Yeah.
Let's all sell in the cloud first.
Yeah.
That's the first and foremost, because that's what your customers want.
Yeah.
And so the moving of your business model to the cloud, it is difficult, especially if you have a long-term business that has been on-prem and margin-driven. So the first thing that I think is the most important thing for an SMB partner is to sit down and look at your business model and figure out how to start moving to selling in the cloud. And that's not just a partner to partner conversation. This is an executive level. This is how do we change our business model? And there's financial implications. There's operating margin, operating expense implications. So there's a lot of that goes into it. So that's the first major hurdle, is to start selling in the cloud. Once you get there, the second thing is to understand, as I said earlier, what are you going to be noted for? What is your differentiation? And figure out if it is, I want to be a security expert for a technology domain, or I want to be a specialist in healthcare. I want to be a specialist around something like GDPR, which is a security regulation that's about to hit in March of next year. Preparing for something like that, because we know there's going to be demand. Mm-hmm. So understanding, what are you selling? What is your key customer, your key market that you're going after? And what is your differentiated solution in doing so? So first, get to the cloud, figure out what you're going to do in the cloud. And then next is cultivate the high propensity customers that you can go after, and work with companies like Microsoft and the partner ecosystem to understand what is the journey of the customer, and at what point do you have the best opportunity for success? And so those three things should get you started. And then as you go forward, then it is the trial and error of, what have I done well? What do I repeat? And how do I package up solutions that are repeatable across customers? And then how do I take the next step with my customer once they've standardized on me? How do I continue their journey in modernizing their business?
Hope everybody's listening. You can start today. Well, it was really awesome to have you in the studio today, Alyssa. I hope our SMBs out there learned a few tidbits. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. And I am open for any questions along the way. Look me up, and I'll give you as much guidance as I possibly can, because your success is our success and our success is yours.
Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, and please rate and review if you like what you hear. Also, follow us at MS Partner on Twitter and Facebook. Tune in next week for more great insights from business leaders and innovators shaping the tech industry today.